Go to Florida or stay in Florida if you're Florida State. Win the Cheez-It Bowl. And what's the harm in being dumped on by a bunch of Cheez-Its versus some smelly Duke's Mayo or that sticky Gatorade? So it's a win-win situation. All in all, Florida State and Oklahoma at the Cheez-It Bowl on December 29th should be a good ball game, although it's not a fair seeding. So for those of you like myself that want to compare the conferences in these bowl games, keep in mind that Florida State is arguably the 2 seed in the ACC. But if you base it on record at 9-3 and ACC record at 5-3, it would be the 3 seed in the ACC, and Oklahoma down the list of Big 12 teams at 3-6 in the Big 12, so the 7 or 8 seed in the Big 12. But still, Oklahoma and Florida State with the Seminoles a 7-point favorite and the much hotter football team, although with all the weeks off, we don't know who's going to show up in Orlando, Florida. This is a fun bowl game that has been named just about everything in recent history going back to 1990. The first matchup was Florida State against Penn State. Joe Paterno and Bobby Bowden, a marquee matchup of number 6 and number 7 in the first ever Blockbuster Bowl. Do you remember that, kids? There was actually this place that you would walk into, a brick building with a lot of glass doors, a retail establishment, if you know what that is. That was called Blockbuster, where you would pick out a video and put it in your, I won't go through the whole explanation because you probably are not aware, but it was called Blockbuster. That was the Blockbuster Bowl. And again, number 6 versus number 7, the very first time in 1990. This bowl game then went from the Blockbuster Bowl to the CarQuest Bowl to the Micron PC Bowl, the Tangerine Bowl, which is another bowl game going back to the 70s, the Russell Athletic Bowl, the Camping World Bowl, and now, finally here since 2019, it has been the Cheez-It Bowl. Oklahoma 6-1 all time against Florida State. They most recently met in 2010 and 2011. Sooners won both games pretty handily, 47-17 and 23-13. Florida State all time in bowl games pretty respectable at 27-17 with 2 ties. They have appeared in this bowl game 3 times with 3 wins. They defeated Wisconsin and Notre Dame in 2008 and 11, and the aforementioned game against Penn State in 1990 in the inaugural Blockbuster/Cheez-It Bowl. Oklahoma's all-time bowl record at 31-23 with 1 tie. They've appeared in this bowl game 1 time. That was back in 2014, one of Bob Stoops' last teams. Before making the playoffs in 2015, they took on Clemson the year before they took on the Tigers in the playoff and got blasted 40-6 in 2014. The ACC leads the series as these two conferences have gone at it now 8 consecutive years. The ACC leads 4-3. All right, a lot of history. That's fun to look at. Now let's look at the matchup here in 2022. Let's start with Jordan Travis, Florida State quarterback, and much improved. In a quarterback-driven league, the ACC arguably the best in 2021. I forecasted this to be the best quarterback conference in college football in 22. There were some disappointments, i.e. Tyler Van Dyke at Miami and others. However, still a strong conference with quarterbacks, and Jordan Travis can argue to be the best. 22 touchdowns, 4 picks, 7 rushing touchdowns, and he has just gotten better and better throwing the football. He did not look like a quarterback 2 seasons ago for Florida State. Mike Norvell's done an amazing job with this offense, with this quarterback, and Jordan Travis is a gamer. He's got Johnny Wilson at wide receiver, 35 catches, 5 touchdowns. Also, Pookie Wilson and Micah Pittman, look out for them as well. In the run game, Florida State is stout. They're 12th in the nation in rushing, number 10 in yards per carry, led by Trey Benson at 6.8 yards per carry. If Trey Benson has a decent game against Oklahoma, he will rush for 1,000 yards this season. Trayshawn Ward not far behind at 6.5 yards per carry. Much improved offensive line. This has been a sore spot for Florida State for years and years and years, going back to the Jimbo Fisher era. This would be the best Florida State offensive line performance in 5 or 6 years as they take on this Oklahoma front. The Sooners 120th in total defense and finishing 6-6. This is concerning and alarming and surprising considering their head coach Brent Venables, arguably the best defensive mind in the country, coming from Clemson, and of course this is how he got a high-level job. Now, of course, he's going to perform better at his defense once he gets his recruits in the building, but he should be able to do better than this. Keep in mind the 120 ranking isn't quite as bad as it seems on the surface, because Oklahoma's on the field on defense for a lot of plays. They're only 68th in yards per play defense. That's average out of 131 teams. Ethan Downs is the playmaker with 13.5 tackles for loss and 4.5 sacks. C.J. Colden, the transfer from Wyoming, with 4 INTs. On the offensive side for Oklahoma, Dylan Gabriel, a really good quarterback, strong top 15 to 25 starting quarterback in college football, but not what Oklahoma fans have come to expect from the likes of Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts. Dylan Gabriel banged up and knocked out of the TCU game, and they really plummeted with him not on the field. He misses throws, he's inconsistent, but he does well enough to throw 24 touchdowns, 6 picks, and 63% completion percentage for a total offense. Kind of the inverse of the Oklahoma defense, where the total offense numbers look much better than the actual performance at only 35th in the nation points per game. Eric Gray is a solid running back, really strong, really stout, can catch balls out of the backfield, 1,300 yards plus 33 receptions. Javante Barnes, you would think that Oklahoma would want to get him some work. He's one of the top recruited running backs in the nation, and as a freshman gained almost 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. Marvin Mims at wide receiver. Will he opt out? 52 catches, 1,000 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Florida State on defense is pretty well stacked with future NFL players that could be opt-outs, but considering the culture at Florida State, what Mike Norvell has built, and the feel-good of finally getting back to a bowl game, these players have said to a man that they are not going to opt out, that they're going to show up for this bowl game, led by Jared Verse, the Albany transfer, who racked up 7.5 sacks, 14.5 tackles for loss. Jamie Robinson, one of the best defensive backs in the ACC, led the team in tackles with 86. Tatum Bethune, the transfer in from UCF, and Kayla DeLoach at linebacker, they are near elite. Renardo Green, look out for him. He is tight in coverage and also lays a lick on wide receivers. Probably leads the defensive backfield as the best Seminole there. This defense, 14th in the nation in total defense, and they face some pretty good offenses in NC State with Devin Leary, Sam Hartman, and Wake Forest, and others. We mentioned LSU, Anthony Richardson in Florida at the end of the year, and their strong ground game. Florida State, 10th in yards per play against, 16th in points against. All right, the NC State loss was 19-17. Jordan Travis threw an interception in the end zone, a game in which the Seminoles should have won. They would have kicked a game-winning field goal, but the trust in the kicker, not there. Ryan Fitzgerald was a good, reliable, decent kicker prior to 2022. Rough season for him at 10 for 17. Oklahoma, not necessarily a guarantee if they need to hit a late field goal either. Zach Schmidt is 11 of 16. Florida State, 9-3. Again, they got off to the great start, including the win in the opener against LSU. Ran into a 3-game slump mid-season against 3 of the better opponents on the schedule. NC State, Wake, and Clemson rallied with 5 straight, and they are feeling good about their season and winning 10 for the first time since 2016. For Oklahoma, it's a downer at 6-6, and the beginning of the Brent Venables era in Norman. Cheez-It Bowl thoughts? Let us know down below right here at the Voice of College Football, FSU and OU.